Hi, I'm Randy Horton, Chief Solutions Officer at Orthogonal. We're coming to you live, well, I guess not live for you, live for us, from the San Diego Convention Center. It's AdvaMed's MedTech Conference. I think one of the biggest conferences in our industry, in my opinion, probably the best one of the year. We refer to it as the Super Bowl. If you can't make it to this conference, or you can't make it to every conference, which you probably can't, you also can't talk to every interesting person at every conference. So what we're doing with MedTech Spotlight Live is curating a set of conversations with some of the most interesting people doing really unique things that we think have new and different things you could take away and learn from it. So we're talking to you at probably your home office, I'm going to guess. Here we're with Steve Levine from Dassault Systèmes. Steve, welcome.
Great. Thanks, Randy. Thanks for having me.
So tell us first about you and your career background, and then we'll go into what you do and who you work for.
Yeah, I'll tell you just a little bit. So I've got an engineering background.
Okay.
My PhD is actually something called material science. And what that means is basically I learned how things work based on how they're put together. And I've basically been using that my whole career, largely using computers, computational tools to actually figure out how the things we build, how the things we work in, and most recently, how we live, how our bodies work, using computer models to actually figure out how to make them better.
And I'm guessing that you've seen some evolution in that space over time.
I have seen a lot in my time from the early days when we were trying to figure out how the atoms would come together for things like the fibers or the oxide layers of silicon chips that now, of course, we take for granted. Back in the early days, getting exactly how those atoms formulated made a huge difference to the properties. Fast forward to how the atoms come together for a drug that maybe was targeting the COVID spike. So we now know how to put those atoms together, how to create a molecule that will cripple it and save lives as we see.
Very good. So tell us about Dassault and what the company does, and then what you do there. Why does Dassault care about this expertise?
Why do we care? It's a great question. So Dassault Systèmes, we've been around for 40-something years. Our background comes from the aerospace industry, which is really where the term digital twin came from. Actually came from NASA. So when they were worried about how they're going to guide the astronauts in space, well, there was unknown territory. So they replicated the spaceship on the ground. They created a twin of what they were doing. And so they would try it on the ground first because they only one shot to do it in space. So they wanted to get it right. So they did it on first. That then translated to how we build planes. So now nobody builds a giant prototype of a aircraft. It's all done digitally. They fly it on the computer. They crash it. They flip it over. They send it through a tornado. They make sure it can survive anything you want. Then they build it. And we've been doing that for the aerospace industry, the automotive industry. Every car you get into today was not built by hand. It was all built on the computer, driven, and all the safety is done on the computer. Virtually every product that you have, if you shave today, the razor blades or the hair dryer, all uses technology, except in healthcare. But we're still testing on animals and people. And so 10 years ago, I launched a project I called the Living Heart Project to see if we could actually do the same, to build a virtual twin of a human heart, a fully functioning human heart. And it turns out we could.
And do you, in turn, sell this as a service to companies building things that do stuff to the human heart?
Yeah.
What it'll do? Or?
Yeah, so really exciting, of course, being here. So I launched that project now over 10 years ago. So we figured out how to build a fully functioning human heart more than a decade ago. That was eye-opening for a lot of people who thought it couldn't be done, but thought the body was too complicated. It turns out the industry is too complicated. What I did was bring all the different stakeholders together, the doctors, the engineers, the scientists, the regulators, all the people that knew a piece of the puzzle, and got them to work together. And so that project it's been going on for 10 years. We actually do sell a commercial version on our platform, so you can buy it. And the companies here all are using it to design new devices so that by the time they're ready to put it in humans, they more or less know it works. We offer free membership in the project. So if you're a researcher, you get access to it, and you can use it. If it doesn't work for your application, you tell us and we make it better. And so the snowball of understanding how the human body is working, because it's not going off into the corner, it's actually coming back together to make our heart more accurate.
Interesting. So it's the twin is getting better. We're smarter.
It gets better every iteration. Every time we use it, it gets smarter. So instead of solving one problem, it's solving all the problems. It's the way the human body works.
All right. So MTAIQ, mean time to AI question.
Yep.
Let's cut through the buzzwords and LLMs and agentic.
Yep.
What problems can you solve now? Or like, more interesting, what problems can you solve in 2025 that you couldn't solve in 2020?
Yeah,
with
great
these
questions.
things?
Yeah, so the AI bubble, if you want to call it the buzz, it's a double-edged sword. Clearly, AI is a powerful tool. And with all power, we get the enthusiasm that comes with it. We've been using AI, machine learning in a more broad sense, since basically for my entire career, because I'm using computers to figure out how things work. So I feed it what I call the ground truth. And then it can help me to understand the complexities of, for example, the heart. So a doctor can look at a heart and maybe they can see how the blood is pumping, or they can see how the tissue is reacting, but they can't see the stresses inside the leaflets that are happening, or the streamlines that are happening, or the electrical system that's coming through. The computer can see all that, and I can feed that into the training set so that now we have a very, I think, accurate training set. And your 5-year timeline is perfect, because 5 years ago, I brought this idea to the FDA, in fact, to Dr. Jeff Shuren, who's the head of the CDRH at the time, and said, I think this is the future. This is the best way for you to do your job, for the industry to innovate. And he ended up funding a 5-year project where we actually used the HARV model as a patient, an entire surrogate for a patient population in a clinical trial. And we used AI as a way of going from the patients, the early first-in-human patients that we had, to a large population by training it on how the disease worked, how the treatment worked, how the outcomes would progress. And the AI can tell you a lot more than what you can see. We can only observe a certain map. But the machine, because the digital twins speak the language of the computer, it can absorb all of that complexity. We were able to now create entire populations which are more powerful than what you could test in a real trial, because now you can do hard to represent patients, children, people who you can't recruit. You can kill them on the computer to make sure you understand what the real risks are. All these things are possible.
And how have you built up that data set? Is that real world data from real patients, or?
So, well, it's a collection. We get the data we need. So the exciting thing about the, what I like to call virtual twins, is that it doesn't require 1 million data sets, because it's not data driven. It's physiology driven. It's biology, chemistry driven. So we need the basics of, to know how you work, I need you, one patient. So I can work with an N of 1 and figure out how to model you. Now, if I want to understand a population, I probably need 10 or 20 different people. But I don't need 2 million, because I'm getting high quality, very well curated data that is then validated against the large set.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So how far along has in silico work come in the eyes of the FDA in terms of what can you do, or what do they have things they actually would rather you do with computer simulation?
Yeah, this is a really exciting time. And at this conference itself, I think we're really seeing an inflection point. So as I said, I've been working with the FDA. Fortunately, I was able to get them to join the Living Heart Project back in 2014. So they spent the first 5 years saying, yeah, we'd never accept that data. And then after 5 years, they saw all the uses of it and the validation, and the doctors who were validating, they said, okay, there's something here. So at the end of that project, which we called the Enrichment Project, last year, we co-published with the FDA what we call an in silico clinical trial playbook.
Okay.
So a guideline for how a medical device company can run an entire clinical trial on a virtual set of patients, submit that to the FDA, and dramatically reduce the number of real patients they need.
So this is not specifically how to work with your device. This was a more broad playbook for the industry.
Exactly. That's the goal. Any computational model, which is inclusive of AI models, but the way we use AI models is we have a ground truth that's based on the physical twin, which can translate back to a human. So now you have a test where you can validate it, so you know the AI is not hallucinating.
So part of what your model says is this is how you can validate good.
Exactly.
How you can define what's good.
Yeah, and they'll accept that now. In fact, I'll share this because on my panel this morning, she missed, representative from Medtronic shared that one of the most recent devices they had approved by using the computational models, the digital twins, in addition to patients, they were able to reduce the patient burden from 2,000 patients to 500. That's a 75% reduction in the number of patients that they needed after the product got approved faster.
Because of the added benefit of the
rest was
simulation.
The rest were replaced by digital twins of the patients.
So let me ask you, you have many med tech customers who use this.
Yeah.
What is the playbook for them? You could probably guess by now, what are best practices for how they work with you? And what are things that are like, oh, no, you really don't want to do it that way?
Yeah, it's a great question because where do you start? So it's a little mind-boggling for people to realize that they could have any patient in their lab at any time and do anything they want to it in terms of some testing. What that really means is instead of starting out with a bench top and some kind of a representation, start out with the patient population you care about. Understand the disease condition, understand the variations that you need. Build that population before you ever start building the cure. So understand what you're doing, then start building the treatment, and then try it. Do it all digitally, the same way a car company doesn't build a car anymore. By the time they physically build the car, they know it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We can do the same for MedTech. So build the population, know that you understand what you're doing, and use that throughout the entire process. And so that by the time you're ready to go to regulatory, you've already run the clinical trial 5-10 times. And so you go and say, here's my trial, here's why I'm including this population, here are the responders, here are the non-responders that are going to not be on label. And then when you get the results, it'll go much faster through the regulatory process and hopefully, as I said, reduce the number of patients.
Interesting. Unscripted questions, so you don't have to answer.
Sure.
But I would think that if a med tech company comes to you and says, we want to work, but we've got something new and different, and we're going to try some different things with your model, we have new data.
Yeah.
I don't want that to become part of your general model for my competitor to come and use next week. So do you have sort of Chinese walls built around some of these things that some roll back into the core and some don't? Or how do you?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Especially when everybody's actually directly competing with each other, all your customers, right?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked it because most people gloss over that in terms of the fact that I've run this, we're doing more than the heart, but the heart has been the lighthouse. Great example. So we've been running this project we're going on 12 years. I have 165 different members all working together against this model. And not a single IP challenge in 12 years of being able to run it. And the secret to doing it is that the only information you share is with me as a partner. So I have one-to-one relationships with everyone. And if you don't want that information shared, then you don't share. Then either you don't share it with me, or you say, you can put it into the model, but you can't share it with my competition. And companies decide whether it's in their interest to make the model better or keep it to their own because it's specific to the way they view things. And we support both.
Okay. They both work.
they both work. And because this whole industry is, the watchword that I have is all about trust. And by using this model, what I call a hub and spoke, where we act as the hub, we don't ask you to trust the other company that's in this, just trust me. And we've developed that. And again, we work with in all regulated industries, again, aerospace, automotive, or the nuclear industry. So developing trust with our customer base is fundamental to how we work and to our tech platform. And so, and again, I had to ask people to trust me at the beginning. Now I've got more than a decade of experience to show that I think we stand behind it.
Okay. Got it. Very good. So what are you here to get out of the conference? What have you gotten out? Anything interesting?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, those are two questions. So certainly, what I'm getting out of the conference is the sense of energy that people are getting. Some of it is anxiety that changes in the wind, and generally people don't like change. But we also know that with change comes opportunity, and the innovators see that opportunity as an advantage they could get if they can understand it. And so for me, now having started more than a decade ago to bring these tools into to where they are today, but I see the industry now ready to take advantage of it. Tell me how to use that tool. I don't think that would ever work, right? If you asked somebody 10 years ago, would we have self-driving cars? They would have said, you're crazy. Now, most people say we have them, right? So what I want to understand is how best to move the industry through that process, because I'm a little more advanced. So so I want to understand, what are their real challenges today?
So if somebody's listening to this and you've just blown their mind and they're like, I don't know anything about this, but I got to learn, how do you give yourself a crash course in this right now?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, the easiest way to do it, you kind of set me up, is that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can call me, or, so my community have been running based originally on the Living Heart Project. We now are doing the lungs, the brain, the kidneys, the liver, the whole body. So every year we get together for a symposium.
Okay.
And we're getting together at the end of the month, so in 3 weeks' time in Boston, where the community of people, I think we now have over 400 people. We're probably going to get 800 or 900 people between in person, and because we're inclusive, and this is global, so we have 28 different countries involved. They can stream it live. So if you want to learn about it, just go to the website. Go to Dassault Systèmes Science Week. That's part of our Science Week. And sign up, and you can get 2 days worth of the latest and greatest of what's happening.
Very good. So Dassault Systèmes Science Week, also known as Dassault Palooza.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, great. Well, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Have a good conference.
Thanks a lot.